Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Please pray as hard as you can for me. Sing along, gesture at your screen, and definitely smash the dislike button. I need to generate at least 1,000 dislikes. Actually, strike that 1898 dislikes uh, because I am seriously checking out of Arizona and the United States and moving somewhere that became really famous in 1898. So I need to shoot for 1898 dislike. Let's do it again. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. All right, pray as hard as you can. Let's do it one more time. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Okay, so yesterday, you may have noticed I was away from the computer yesterday. I got into a serious conflict, and I won't talk about it just yet, but it's really the final straw in a long series of problems that I've had living in Arizona. You see, last summer, it's going to sound repetitive if you've been watching my channel, but last summer, I need to bring it because the flow of the story is important. Last summer, it was 115 degrees, and I got a really bad case of long COVID. And I was living in Phoenix, and the residents here of Phoenix were very hostile to how I had to take care of myself and deal with it. I mean, COVID is bad enough, right? And when I went out to get groceries, when I went to work, and all the rest of the stuff, everybody was very hostile to me. But I didn't have a second person to bring home the income and take care of the chores. I didn't have a choice, right? And everyone was still hostile to me about that. And so at the end of the year last year, I made a resolution to network more with people, to find that life partner, not necessarily a romantic partner, not necessarily a sexual partner, but a life partner so that I could take a break next time I get COVID during a heat wave. Or it doesn't have to be COVID during a heat wave, right? If I had a mental health breakdown, cancer, my car breaks down, any number of situations, right? And so that's what I've been working on these last 6 months. But unfortunately, people are very hostile toward it too. I've been having difficulty going to various meetup groups because, people are really sensitive these days. You make the wrong move, and I mean, it's one thing to be rejected by the one girl that you tried to make the move on. That's one thing, but it's another to be thrown out of an entire group because of it, right? And a lot of times I have to weigh which one's more important, the girl or the group, right? And that's a very tough decision that I have to make a lot of times, too many times. And conflicts like that are causing me a lot of chaos in my life, right? So thank God, one of the people in the group that I was going to here in Phoenix, we have a lot of Taylor Swift fans, and I was going to one of the groups, and so I got removed from the group. But the leader of that group was very nice to tell me what had gone on. What had happened was I had responded to a couple of Facebook messages. They weren't making a move on a girl necessarily, but I think I exposed a little bit too much about my politics or my religion, something of that nature. It made a lot of people uncomfortable. So you see the problem there, right? You have to expose those things if you want to make the move, right? I wasn't necessarily making the move at that moment, but and that's the kind of barrier that I've been running into. In an ideal world, I'd love to have a marriage to myself, right? Just without the harassment, the hostilities, and the barriers, right? I would have loved it if when I had the long COVID, if my income still came in, and if my chores still got done, I would have loved it. Dating would have been the last thing on my mind if that were the case, right? That's why I'm working on my Legos project. But unfortunately, the Legos have created its own set of dramas in my life. For one thing, I'm burning myself out on it. For another, it's It's just not attracting the right kind of attention in my life. I'm hiding in the closet to do it. It's just a no-win situation, really. I don't know what the solution to this is. You got a huge complex jam of things, right? On the one hand, what happens when I get cancer in the future and have nobody to take care of me, nobody to bring home the income? And on the other, going about that is tricky as well. And that's what brings us back to leaving the Phoenix area. I recently, believe it or not, I've been chatting with Mary Curry's granddaughter. It's kind of funny. I was in Taiwan for my grandmother's funeral back in December. And I went up to the casket and I told my grandmother, when you make it to the other side, talk to Mary Curry, have her set me up on a blind date. And I left. And actually, I also gave my grandmother something to take up to Mary Curry, a small rock of bismuth, because Mary Curry's famed invention is now made from bismuth. It actually wasn't the way she discovered it, but it now is the way to make polonium-210. And so, and then I put it in the casket. The casket was cremated. So in her urn, there's who knows what that bismuth turned into, right? She had a lot of other jewelry too, so it might have even alloyed with some of the other jewelry she had in there. And then I left the funeral and I went back to my hotel, and I for some bizarre reason, I was bored out of my mind. I started browsing a dating app, and before I knew it, I was having sushi with a girl over in Taiwan. I thought that was my grandmother's blessing right there. But then a few weeks ago, it's kind of funny. I'm dating another distant cousin of Mary, a very distant cousin of Mary Curry. And so she was really late showing up to dinner one night, as in an hour late. And I thought this was it. And so I didn't want to be discouraged. So I went to look up a little bit of biography about Mary Curry and seeing if the girl I was dating even matched up with her at all. And I discovered Helene Curry, and I discovered she even though she's 97 years old, she's still active and has a university email address. And so I emailed her. 2 years ago, I had done a little bit of an experiment. I was living in a house that had a borderline radon problem, and I discovered you could extract radon decay byproducts from the dust in the house, from the vacuum cleaners, from the drying machine. And so I extracted a small amount of it. It was enough to make the Geiger counter go crazy. And I was telling Helene about my experiment, and she got fascinated with it. And we've been talking about it. And the other day, I dropped the L-bomb on her, and it turned out pretty good, too. So now I have a big decision to make. But I am hopelessly jammed here in the United States and in Phoenix. I keep coming back to how terrified I was last summer when I had COVID. At least if I moved to Poland, the cost of living is a lot less there. It'd be less of the end of the world if I missed a few weeks of work, right? It would be less of the end of the world if I had to call for food delivery of any sort, right? But last year, that was terrifying. You should have seen how terrified I was about the future, about my state of health. I was dehydrated, about how I was even going to get food and water. You should have seen how terrified I was. I don't think I recorded very many videos, but that was terrifying. It was akin to, you ever watch a detective show, somebody's family member gets kidnapped, right? But this was me getting kidnapped within my own body, right? Not knowing where the future is going to hold, right? All right, let's pray together. Bum, 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum, 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 bum.